Now going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Vivek Tweet on the inconsistencies between the gay trans LGBT going viral, getting 3.3 million views. Now, specifically, this is from Vivek. He says, quote, "Gay movement. No sex you're attracted to is hardwired at birth, even though there's no gay gene." Next statement is, quote, "Trans movement. Your sex is entirely fluid, even though there is a definitive sex chromosome," unquote. Third statement, quote, "LGBT movement. You must believe both of those things at once, or else you're a bigot," unquote. And within a day and a half, he got 3.7 million views. So it actually went up, which is astonishing. And 36,000 likes. A popular opinion, to say the least. At least popularly viewed. Now, the real question is, what do the comments look like? Mostly agree? Mostly disagree? It's time to find out. Let's see here. One of the first popular comments comes from Simon. I don't know if he's trying to troll someone with that name, because now, if this is reminiscent of someone who had a childlike mind where you have the fun little toy, now I'm going to say Simon says. So, little pun there. So, nevertheless, Simon says, quote, "Point me to the straight gene, please," unquote. He got 134 likes. Someone by the name of George Alexopoulos says, quote, "It's a religion," unquote. He got 226 likes. Someone by the name of Molly Pitcher, she says, or rather, she actually has a picture with text. So she pitches? No, that's a basketball term. Ha, sports ball's joke. I know it's hockey. Nevertheless, her picture says, quote, "Only boys can transition into men," unquote. And she got 287 likes. The redheaded libertarian, who gets an A+ for marketing because she is a redhead and she is libertarian, as you can see in her profile picture. So, on point for marketing. The redheaded libertarian says, quote, "Double think," unquote. She got 494 likes. As the youth might say, viral, I believe. Now, that's also a reference to perhaps the greatest, also saddest book ever written, 1984 by George Orwell. Something that unfortunately is not taught enough in public schools, another topic for another time. But it's supposed to be about a dystopian future, and unfortunately it is a dystopian, but it's supposed to be science fiction, make-believe. Unfortunately, reality is becoming worse than the book in some regards. And one of the instances is when the main character is actually, well, I would say spoiler alert, but it's been decades since the thing has been written. I would hope so, and you've all read by now. But nevertheless, go out and buy it. But in one instance, summer spoiler alert, the main character is actually captured by the bad guys. And one of the things that they talk about in the book is doublethink, where they're supposed to be, you're told terms, but the definitions change. You're not supposed to think about it. And in the book, one of the most famous instances is when the main guy is being tortured, and he's supposed to say 2 + 2 = 5, even though he knows it's 2 + 2 = 4. You and I know that. But they torture him until he acquiesces, and he says 2 + 2 = 5. And the point of that in the book was to show that you'll do whatever the government tells you to do. You'll think exactly what the government tells you to think. Now, in terms of doublethink, that is in regards to the specific rhetoric in the book, in terms of not just the thoughts, but the written statements in the book, where you're saying one thing, but it has an entirely different definition, which makes communication infinitely more difficult. But let me know in the comments, have you read 1984 yet? I've only referenced it about, I guess, what episode number is this? 187? I've only referenced it probably about 160 times by now. And again, don't make that a drinking game, because I references it so much, you'd be pretty much inebriated to the point of not good things happening. So again, disclaimer, do not make that a thing. Now, going back to the comics section, you have someone by the name of Andak41 saying, quote, "I'm not sure why you seem to be intentionally alienating people versus building inclusion," unquote. And I can't tell if this is a man or woman, so I'll just say this person got 185 likes. Now, this is, from a middle-of-the-road perspective, an interesting point to bring up, because this statement by Vivek, or Vivek if you prefer that pronunciation, or like me if you prefer his college rap name, Davek, which the fact that he doesn't have swag and mugs and t-shirts with that on it is a marketing loss to say the least. But nevertheless, this is going to alienate some people. Now, from a political perspective, moving on the political chessboard, is this going to gain him more followers or more prospective voters than alienate some? Now, for this particular comment, I would venture to say someone who believes in the ideals that he is highlighting right here, and I would say more likely they would be traditionally left or far left. I don't think they would ever vote for a candidate who's more in the middle or more on the right. And depending on what your thoughts on Vivek are, he would be much more in the middle or much more on the right. He's not running to be the Democratic nominee. If he was, that would be political suicide, because right now, politically speaking, that is a hot topic or a hot point where it's a pretty contentious subject, and more people who are on the left side of political aisle would, I believe, in those ideals being spoken. So it would be career suicide, for example, for Biden to say these things or point out these inaccurate inconsistencies. That would tank many of his points in polls, so to say. So it'll be interesting to see. Given what he is going for, politically speaking, I think this will actually gain him prospective voters, because he's the only one on the right really talking more about the culture wars, so to say. DeSantis is bringing them up more and more, but this is the one. Vivek is being much more articulate and much more precise in the specifics. And I think there are some people in the United States, there's more people who are aware of the quote-unquote culture war and the impact that it could have and the ripple effect it has throughout, well, business, politics, and culture, which is one of the reasons I make the show, because I'm fascinated by how all these things interconnect and how they are all affecting each other. You have businesses who are actually taking stands on these types of issues, and some of them are increasing their sales, some of them are actually just destroying every sales that they even had. So it's fascinating to see where the chips are falling, so to say. A little bit of a perhaps poker metaphor, something to that effect. But nevertheless, back to the comments. The Rabbit Hole, who gets an A+ for marketing, because B+ for marketing, because their picture profile, or profile picture, reverse that, is of a rabbit. However, there's not a rabbit jumping down a hole like Alice in Wonderland, so a little bit disappointing there. Nevertheless, the Rabbit Hole says, quote, reality has an anti-woke bias, unquote. That person got 705 likes. Soul Stricken, this profile says, quote, fact check, both sides of the government are beyond corrupt, unquote. Person got 95 likes, which again, I think Vivek is winning over a lot of people who are, they're feeling politically alienated. They're more politically maybe in the middle. Because, yeah, I think if you look at just, look at the evidence and all the articles and how, I think many people would agree with that statement that there is corruption a lot on both sides. Someone by the name of It's Not Rocket Science says, quote, it's gone too far, unquote, getting 99 likes. Now, there are some, I'm trying to give a good representation. I'm going by the greatest number of likes. So there are some who are more against Vivek as well. Someone by the name of, well, I don't know if they're really, I don't know if this is a parody account or real. We'll decide together, perhaps. Someone by the name of Anonymous Troll Demon says, quote, sorry, but if this nonsense doesn't end, and soon a back in the closet sentiment will rise again, unquote. That person got 58 likes. Now, that being said, their profile name is Troll Demon. So I don't know if they're intentionally saying that statement to troll people. Probably. Maybe. Perhaps. Now, this doesn't have the greatest number of likes. However, because I like it, we're going to say it. Someone by the name of Banana Biden, their quote is, Orwell was right, unquote, getting 3 likes. So not the greatest number of likes, but perhaps one of the most articulate and accurate ones, because it references one of my favorite books. George Orwell is the brilliant author. He wrote 1984. If that's a little bit too long for you, well, the book's about that yay long, or thick, so to say. I'm probably dating myself because I read physical books, not, e-books. But nevertheless, the physical book's probably about an inch, let's say. It's on the shelf right there. Yeah, I'd say it's about that long. I would say Animal Farm, it's a little bit more of a quick, easy read. Same authors say a lot of the same parallels in terms of concepts. And both great books. I recommend reading both. But if 1982-4 is a little bit too dense for you in terms of the text, and it is a longer read, though I would say it's a quick read. But nevertheless, Animal Farm is another great, brilliant work of George Orwell as well. I don't know if that's a verbiage pun, but it did sound funny, so I'll say it's a joke. George Orwell as well. Yeah, that's a joke. I'll go for it. Nevertheless, back to the comments. Dr. Kiki Akula says, quote, I can't wait till people realize the B in LGBT means there's only two genders, unquote. With also looks like a, not a sad emoji, but a tired emoji. Now, this person got 83 likes. Let's see here. Someone by the name of Michael M says, quote, that's called professional trolling, unquote, getting 42 likes. Lab Minsky says, quote, Vivek is desperate to be talked about again, unquote, getting 149 likes. Which, this did surely go viral. It's got more views than anything he's done, I believe, in the past at least 3 months. Because, again, this is nearly 4 million views from this statement. But I'm not sure if he's really desperate for attention. Most of his views on Twitter, I would say, usually get between 250,000 views and maybe 1 million views. Kind of a good average, so to say. Someone by the name of Dave Davenport says, quote, I don't believe either. I just think the government shouldn't get involved in the private sexual lives of consenting adults, unquote. Getting 140 likes. Which, let's see, I don't think the government... I think many people would agree that's true, but the issue, and why I think more people are believing this is a wider conversation, because all the rules, laws, stipulations, as well as government policies and business policies that involve these things make it so that it is not just a bedroom topic, so to say, because there are many rules and laws. I mean, one of the most prolific examples of religious freedom was the bake the cake example, where you had a gay couple go to dozens of different cake shops demanding that they make a wedding cake for their wedding, and they finally found a shop that would say no. Now, for the record, that shop said, I will bake you any cake you want, but because of my religious convictions, I will not bake you a wedding cake. And that was the one that they chose to sue. And that was a long case, but at the end of the day, the bakery won based on their religious freedoms. And that's a good example where, again, the bakery owner didn't give a darn what they did until they wanted to push their views onto him and tell his business what to do. And again, in terms of capitalism, just walk across the street. Again, they found dozens of places that would bake a specific wedding cake. But nevertheless, I think that's why, while the statement, many people agree with it, I think the reason this is becoming a political issue is because of so many things bleeding into business, policies, the government. But nevertheless, we'll read one or two more comments. Someone by the name of Go Laura says, quote, not really an issue if you remember bi people exist. Definitely not an issue the government should have an opinion on, unquote. She got 397 likes. Let's see here. A couple more. Someone by the name of K, which I can't help but wonder, why didn't they just say Kirby? Because the profile picture is of Kirby, which is the cute Nintendo character, which is a weird animated little ball figure. Nevertheless, Kirby says, quote, whether or not we choose to believe transgender people are actually wired the way they say they are is irrelevant, I think, because the government really should have no business in telling adults what they can or can't dress and who they can or can't sleep with, unquote. This person got 383 likes. So this is by far one of the most active responses or replies that he's gotten quite for some time. Mr. Stu McAplin says, quote, what's your infatuation with other people's sexual lives, unquote, getting 76 likes. Let's read one or two more of the popular ones. Let's see here. Sabil Riley said, quote, this all started when we let people's feelings redefine the word gender. Words mean something, and if gender can mean anything, it means nothing, unquote. Getting 67 likes. So interesting. Wow, this one got a lot of likes for a very concise statement, but got a lot of likes. Someone by the name of Andrew said, quote, man, you are dumb, unquote. Got 261 likes. So interesting. Shoot, in terms of a breakdown, it's actually, we'll do one more. Rebecca V. Voted Reality Believer says, quote, it's literally madness and we must reject it, unquote, getting 77 likes. So interestingly enough, this might only be, it may be a 50-50 split in terms of who supports his original statement. When usually Vivek is usually hitting between, I want to say, 60 to 90% favorability in terms of favorability comments or replies to his original Twitter or X post for the 10 people who call Twitter X. I don't. Do you? Let me know in the comments. But nevertheless, it's a little less popular than before. All right, we'll read one more just because there's a George Orwell reference. The conservative alternative says, quote, George Orwell was well aware that all socialist ideologies require a person to depart from the truth. To the point where you must be willing to hold two contradictory statements simultaneously, he called this doublethink, the willingness to believe whether you're told to. Unquote. Got 20 likes for that statement. And that was the articulate thing of what I was trying to say earlier in regards to George Orwell's 1984 book. So interestingly enough, not as many favorability responses than usual. Let me know in the comments. Do you think this will lose him a couple points in the polls? Or will it help gain some people's opinion and favor in the middle? Interestingly enough, I didn't think it was going to be such a low favorability in terms of responses. I thought it would be at least 70% favorable. But interestingly enough, much more of a contiguous, much more of a negative feedback in the comments than usual. So it'll be interesting to see, because of that feedback, does he drop this specific issue? Or does he keep pressing forward? And again, there are many instances where a lot of people are saying he's based, he's right, but these are getting between 0 and 5 likes. So I was reading all the ones basically that were getting above 50 likes and kind of the top ones that were liked. So let me know in the comments, do you think this will be a net positive for Vivek, or do you think it'll be a net negative? Be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of November. So if you can click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, the comments are a great way to help me make the show better and better, as your feedback is greatly appreciated as well. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.